Hello and welcome to the stream. I wonder if it's live. If it is, that would be cool. But if it's not live, is it live? Is it live? Is it live? Okay, great. I think this is live now. Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm gonna be doing a series. Okay, great. I think this is live now. Hello. Oh god, I need to shut my stream up. Okay. This is a trial run of me possibly streaming for a very long time, but you know, we'll see how it goes. But I've been wanting to stream art for a very long time, and if you're watching this for the first time, this is my first time doing it. So, welcome to the art stream of me doing world building for a book I'm writing, which is kind of fantasy related to a lot of the things that I find cool in fantasy writing. And I've always wanted to build my own world, so maybe I can, you know, start writing books and basically express myself creatively. So we're gonna just have a chill stream today where we're just drawing what we like, and I like fantasy things. So I guess you have fun watching me draw. So yeah, let's start drawing. This is a world that I kind of want to start drawing. It's kind of like a fallen city and ruins. So the title of the world is Angorexia. So I don't know if that's showing up on the stream at all, like the light green. I swear it's there. So since it's not showing up on the stream, I'm just gonna hide it very lightly with my pencil, and I can erase it later and we can go ahead from there. Okay, so basically we're starting with a scenescape of a place that is kind of like a canyon, and breaks up into a canyon maybe here. This is kind of like a canyon, and I kind of want the city to be inspired by tree trunks basically, and so tree trunks might be like the root of buildings here. Let's just think of a dark castle, and we put it like so. And since it's gonna be like a pretty big scale, I don't think we need to worry about a lot of the details. We can just have fun as we're drawing. These are one of the spires, maybe that would be cool. And then I want 2 more spires here, and maybe they break up into their own sort of like, you know, that kind of a thing, that kind of a shape. So this is kind of like a castle. I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of like a tree trunk. It will make more sense once I add like texture and stuff on it. But today the media that I'm gonna be choosing is pencil color. So I have these castle colors that I've been using. They're pretty good. They're relatively affordable compared to Faber-Castell, the really expensive ones that cost like 200 bucks. But you know, I'm gonna do this particular city first. So I kind of want to have this kind of overrun by nature, so we can have like giant rocks and there's like hills in the background. And basically where we're looking at this is from this clearing here. So there can be like a big tree here. Just as we're looking away at the capital city. And we can have like tiny buildings over here, tiny buildings over here. They're like sort of bud shaped. You know, and I want them to have like a... I know it's kind of like looks like it's an elven sort of a city, but it can be like a little bit different from the regular elven architecture. We're gonna have like a lot of domes, a lot of organic shapes for buildings, because that's what I want the city to have. And I'm just kind of laying the groundwork, you know, of sort of like a fallen city, and this is like a really far off scenicscape. Okay, now that we have the basics ready, we can literally start to nail this down. And the thing that I do personally is I try to add in the background color the first. So I kind of want this whole building to have like a green sort of hue. So let's go ahead and we can erase a bunch of... I think my eraser is like tainted with other things. Oh yeah, this is the better eraser. I have some two like really bad erasers, and then I have like one really good eraser. So I think I found the good one. So I knew the basic shape, and we don't worry about this. It's gonna go away. So the basic shape is still imprinted in my head. So let's go ahead and start sort of coloring the basic shape in. I know it's kind of gone dark over there, but we want to have like a very light coat of color. Very light. To sort of indicate where the castle is. A lot of it is not gonna show up probably on camera, maybe. Oh, it is showing up on camera, that's great. But that is the shape of the castle. Okay. Great. I wish I could erase this more. Oh, it is getting erased. That's cool. I hope it's not taking like the paper with it. Would be really sad. And that's the worst thing about colored pencils, if they take paper away with it. And we're gonna just kind of cover this whole land with this sort of very light green. Very light. A lot of the times that I suffer from anything that's related to like colored pencil, I think the most would be carpal tunnel syndrome, because you know you have to kind of go over a lot of things many times. Also, the reason why I'm removing the pencil lines is because I kind of want dark contrast with lighting as I'll go down building out this whole world. Some pencil lines being there is not that big of a deal, but mostly I don't want pencil lines. Let's say our light source is kind of over here, so we just want to have all the lights kind of coming in from this angle. So most of the lighter areas would be on this side. They kind of want more definition across. We want to embrace the land area. And we have a solid first kind of like coat of color. I don't know if it's showing up on the stream or the camera, but it is a very light shade of green. So now let's start working on the highlights, where we want to work in a bunch of yellows so that we can understand where light is hitting. So I have this yellow. They don't have names. Oh, lemon yellow lights, I guess. Lemon yellow lights. We just kind of want to work with a lot of lemon yellows, and maybe this color as well, which is primrose yellow. And a little bit of a darker yellow. Let me find which is my darker yellow. Maybe this one. Might be too dark. Brilliant yellow. Great. I have kind of used them quite a bit, so they seem not sharpened quite enough. That's fine. Let's go with our lemon light yellow, because this whole building kind of has like that green, you know, aesthetic, so to speak. So we really want to go very light with the yellow on wherever we think the sun is going to hit the building and give it highlights. I always work from highlights to dark areas, so it's always easier to add in darker overlight. With and that is the exact opposite of what I do in sort of acrylic, because acrylic I usually go from dark to light and I add highlights, but in pencil color I think I find it easier to go from light to dark, because you can always add in more layers of the dark. So we always need to have like few sources and few like build-ups of light color wherever we think it makes sense. And then we can start building towards, you know, more of the dark areas. So I think this open land could also have like a bunch of lighter areas. Wherever we don't think that there's light, we can add in our darker colors and not to worry too much about it. So it's starting to take shape, which is pretty exciting. Kind of thought of this world to be like a groundbreaking space into be working on the book, but let's see where it goes from there, honestly. And I want to give that a nice sharpen. Now I'm using lemon yellow, sort of add more definition to the light. Also, cool thing that if you're kind of coloring in one angle, changing up the angle also brings in more and more contrast. Like that. I think that's pretty cool. So now we have like a basic shape, and we have highlights laid down, at least for the foreground. And I can start laying down some highlights for the background. So the background can be pretty, you know, lightweight. It doesn't need to be too serious. I had this color as well. Problem with castle colors is like their color at the back and the color at the front might not always be matching. So you need to kind of figure out which is the best color by looking at the actual LEDs that you're working with. You kind of want to have a couple of highlights here as well in the background, like very far back. And those are just kind of like the foothills, so they're just gonna be like very pale green soon. But I'm not gonna worry too much about those at this point. Let's just add some background here. And we should be good. So let's start adding more definition in the foreground where we have all of these buildings. So let me find my lightest green. Is that my lightest green? I feel like I should have like a test swatch or seeing the colors as well. Let me grab something. Yeah, that's pretty light. Okay, so now we want to start building like the actual floor of the space. Very gently, because any sort of like pressures that we're building up on the actual pencil color is gonna give it definition. So I kind of like to go very light-handed in the initial layers so that they don't leave a lasting impression in the paper. So feel free to change up the angle a little bit. It's fine. Completely fine. Kind of want to mix this with like a golden yellowish. I think the building should be more golden yellow, but I'm giving it like the green because of the, you know, the overgrown kind of ness I want to add to the buildings itself. Now we have definition on this spire, so to speak. Very organic looking spire. Like, I think some of this I need to add more structural integrity to these buildings, but honestly, they're fantasy buildings. I think I can get away with some structural problems on the buildings itself. It's fine. I think I'm gonna change the direction over here because it looks cooler if it's like multi-directional. Yeah, I think that looks cooler. We can add a little bit more highlight, obviously going very light-handed, not adding too much pressure on the paper, very light-handed, going over the whole thing, adding more highlight as we go along because, you know, honestly, it is all about the layers in this thing. Awesome. Starting to look like a thing, and then from here I think there might be like roads and such. So we want to add like the domes in the front that are the buildings. Just very light-handed. You can add all of the pedal buildings. Just very, very light-handed buildings. I think all of my buildings, I kind of want to have them to be like a dome. The castle looks enormous by comparison, but it's fine. I think that was the idea behind it. I'm gonna add more lights. Oh yeah, you can see some stuff happening now. Okay, and now we add more of the petal-shaped buildings, or bud-shaped buildings, so to speak. I think some I want like to be like massive shape. It can be like that. They kind of look like asparagus. Okay. You want a little bit of domes. We kind of want half petals, and it's kind of like an abandoned, like a very abandoned place. It's fine. We want like very tiny walls. Add it as like contest, or maybe the city was spread out. And all of these kind of need to be broken down a little bit because it's an abandoned, like, ruinous city or something. So I'll add like a lot of cracks here and there. You know, kind of like that. So we want a lot of like broken domes, like that, and broken petals. Maybe we can break this in the front. And they can be like lumpy, wumpy shapes, because they're all broken down. And it's like kind of overgrown, and you know, it's just kind of doing its own thing in nature for a very long time. And I want to add a little bit definition to the sky because it's looking kind of barren right now. So I'm gonna grab my lightest blue. I think this is my lightest blue. Yeah, so this is my lightest blue. I'm gonna go with a very light coating of blue in the sky. Let's kind of erase the mountaintops. I know where they are. So we're just gonna go like so. Very light shading. Very, very light. In case I need to add clouds or something, I can do that. Okay. And very light for the ground as well. So some highlights in the canyon in the front. And then it can be pretty much brown. Because, you know, canyon. So more of like this ochre yellow shade for the lightest into brown. You know? I'm going as like a contrast. I added a crack there because in my world there is a crack. It's fine. It lives on a canyon. It's pretty cool. The last city that lived on a canyon. Okay. Now let's start working from the mountains in the back, because that's like the least amount of detail that I need to do. So let's grab a really pale green. But I have like olive green. Yeah. I'm gonna just start adding the mountains little by little. And start building up a little bit of definition. So they're not mountains. Should I make them mountains? Like proper blue mountains that are just... I think I'm gonna do green hills. Fine. It's fine. It's gonna work out. Just trust the process. So I kind of want them to also have like a little bit of a highlight, so they can have some areas within the mountain that are kissed by sunlight, you know, but they can be really, really big. It's fun. And I do want to add like a blue backdrop on the mountains as well, because, you know, the farther the mountains are, they become like mulched color. And yellow and blue is green, so you know, kind of works. In pencil art, you just kind of want to add as much layer and depth of color as much as possible, because it makes it really interesting, all the undertones. I think that's like a rule of art in general. We never really want to use black. We kind of want to use a lot of variation of color. In the mountains over here, in the peaks, and now I'm going with the harder hand, more pressure, and I'm adding in just a little bit of the green. I know it doesn't look like we're doing much. Honestly, it's a lot. And now with this green, which is kind of like my darker forest green, I'm just gonna add a little bit of a squiggly. Go with very light hand because it's a really, really dark color. Kind of want it to be really muted along with the yellows and everything. And now you're starting to see the definition of some mountain range. Pencil art takes a really long time compared to anything else, but it's like the easiest to set up, honestly. I think that's where I get really lazy. I get really lazy setting up like for acrylic or any other medium. And we can carry this color a bit down on our landscape as well. Anything you're drawing, just kind of try to carry it down as much as you can. With landscapes, they kind of tend to blend after a certain amount of distance. I know it's looking like very pale and yellow and everything. That's the process. I'm going back with the yellow, and I'm adding more definition to the blues that we just added and the greens that we just added. The more definition of color we have, the more awesome it looks. Trust me. Okay. And now I want to go back with the blue and really start defining. And I'm using a different angle now. I'm going with more pressure. More pressure, but on like the flatter side of the color, so it's not very sharp. No sharp shapes when we're on a very large distance. Now we're seeing mountains, or hills, basically, come alive. Because we're adding more and more definition with different colors. Add more and more and go down. I know this is like the most blurry part of the whole process, but it still needs some definition, you know? Also, from this distance, if they have like rivers and stuff, they look white instead of like a blue or, you know, shades of blue or anything. So if you want to add rivers or wetlands over here or something, then that's what they look like. But I just kind of want to put in like grassy fields. Also, you will see I'm always alternating between the highlight and the shadow colors because it's better to build them up in layers because it just makes it easier to blend and add more character. It's a lot of patient work with colored pencils, and you kind of want to change up the angles, work with the paper's grain, and it's like a lot of, you know, different kind of things, but it starts looking really cool once you get the hang of it. So now I'm just gonna pick up darker blue color instead of like a darker green color, honestly. What do you think about this? Yeah, I think that works. So now with a very light hand, we just kind of want to go and define the shadows. Very. It's not like you can't undo what you do, but once you set down the shadows, look how dark that is. It gets really dark once you start defining the shadows. See what I mean by it's easier to get in the highlights and then the dark areas, because the dark works itself into the paper really quickly. If you really want to add like highlights after you've added a dark, you can always erase and go back, but it's always easier to just kind of work lights to dark with pencil colors. And now I have added this highlight. Now there's no going back there. Once the shadow's set in its place, I can obviously go back and remove it, but it's just easier this way. And you can do like a stroke motion kind of as well. So you go from higher pressure to lower pressure, that kind of it creates the image of rolling hills. That's also fun. Look at that. And now we have some mountain things. Mountain looking things. And now, to add even more variation, I'm gonna go with ochre yellow. Add in more depth and blend that in. Looks great. See that? Look how dark that is now. So now you can have like almost an illusion of that, you know, there's a lot of rolling hills with a lot of greenery in the background over there. Look at that. And now you have definition in the background. I'll go again with the light and add in more and more depth as I go along. And now I'm going against the grain. So I have like one homogeneous stretch of rolling mountains. That looks cool. Kind of came out of nothing. It's very cool. So now I want to do like the landscape a little bit and add more definition here. So since it's far, it's not gonna have like a lot of color definition. It's gonna have more vague nothingness. So I'm just gonna going with the green that I had earlier, the lime green. It kind of works its way through here as well. Just go over the whole thing and cover it as much as we can with color. And now I'll go back in with my brilliant yellow. And sort of add more yellow wherever I can. It's okay if I go over the buildings because they're gonna be in the shade and so on. Anyway. Okay, and now we're gonna go with this green, which is the green light, and more planes, because that's what these are. Planes. Like some places they might have definition with the yellow sunlight and so on, So we want to keep those areas bare. I feel like this area is fine with having more green. I'm just kind of working that as a gradient up. Yes. I'm gonna put this light over here. This is kind of like my book light. Helps me see, you know, if I had very less lighting in my space that I'm working on. Okay, now we're gonna go back to the blue. Add more definition, because yellow mixing with blue is truly prettier than just adding green over everything. Very light fingers. Okay, awesome. Make sure not to lose the actual original shape. Gonna move the light back around here. Now you just have a bunch of colors. That are adding depth to your drawing. You can just kind of marry that with the buttons in the back. Now I'll go with my ochre yellow again and add in more like ground details. See how that blends in? Perfect. You can kind of marry those with the mountains here. And see how that creates its own lovely contrast. Look at that. That's beautiful. I know I like green more than any other color, but damn, I really like green. Okay, now that we have sort of like a base for the background, we're gonna go ahead and add certain base colors for like the foreground right here. So the bigger base color for the front, as in the building itself, I need cadmium yellow light. There's a thing called Naples yellow. So I think that's pretty good. And I'm just gonna start layering the yellows because this building is more gold green, you know, kind of like dwarven architecture. I am really hiccupy. And I'm just gonna pull some more greens out. just to add more depth. And some more browns. So these are the browns I'm working with. So let's start working with these 4 yellows for now. To add more definition to the front of the building. Just very light. I want to kind of go very light-handed, almost like you're not holding the thing. I really like this music, whoever made this. Really helping me stay in the fantasy vibe. And since I went here with my... Look at that. I can erase the background a little bit so that it's easier for... No. Just to add more depth to the foreground. Okay. Now that this color is down, we're done with this one, and we move on to a more dark color, like this one and the ochre yellow. So this is our cad yellow. I'm just gonna go over the green and add it wherever it makes. Since I want like the light to come from like this side. So I'm kind of building it like a middle shadow layer, so to speak. So anywhere where I think the structure doesn't get light, this is like kind of like the transition color to the shadows, so to speak. I'll only ever go to the middle. I never fully cover up the highlights. And now with the darker ochre, kind of wanna add more definition and depth to the shadows, like we did for the background. It really is a great like shadow transition color. Look at that. It's almost effortless, the way it appears. Oh. My display died. My display just decided to, nope. I'm gonna watch any more of this. More definition here to this green. Look at that. It's its own entity. And it looks great. Every single time I do ochre yellow, it really adds like a depth to everything that I'm making. I'm just kind of going heavy here because this is like the entrance, so it can be dark. Fine. Okay, now that we're here, kind of want to have this whole building to be covered in the Naples yellow, so it's more golden than anything else. We want to reinforce golden with pencil color. The easiest way is to green and yellow, because that is the thing that truly creates like a gold sort of color. Because if you just use the ochre yellows and everything to create gold, it creates like a very darker, flat gold, which almost looks like brass, but it doesn't look like gold. And we're going for like gold here.
Spent it in good company, and all of the harm I have ever.
I'm gonna change this song because I don't want to have lyrics. Okay, awesome. And now we're gonna take oxide of chrome. Yeah, this looks like a really nice color to add like to really deep areas. So wherever I want to define shape, I'll add this really. See? It defines the shape a little bit too readily. So we want to be really purposeful about this. Be very purposeful about this. Add it as little as you can, because it can be really dark on the paper. I wanted to add sort of like a U shape here. So I'm defining it with the very dark oxide of chrome shade. Very dark. Well, darker compared to anything else we have. I'm gonna go here, add it to the entrance. Just sort of work all of the shadows a little bit harder. I know this wasn't the shape that we started with, but I'm kind of happy with how it ended up here. Kind of looks like a twisted seed. I'm gonna work the background over there. And now I kind of want to have these two connected by a bridge. Just gonna add a quick bridge there and a spire here. I'm going very heavy-handed on this, but it looks cool. It looks cool. And now the same outside of green. Gonna define a bunch of stuff in the spires. And add a little bit more green to the spires as we're going. I'm going very heavy-handed with this because they're not gonna have a lot of detail. Fine. Look at that. Now this is cad green. I'm gonna go and reinforce the chrome shade and really add to the darkness. Just reinforce all of those shadows wherever it makes sense. Just be careful not to add it too much, because then it doesn't look like the building is golden. It looks like the building is more green and decayed, or like a snot color than actually a beautiful color. Okay, now I want to kind of have a very light cinnamon color. Like the naming structure of these colors. I know cad yellow and so on, but I've never seen cinnamon as a shade in any sort of palette or anything that I've owned. That's kind of cute. I'm going and reinforcing the shadows because I want the building to be naturally just that beautiful dwarven golden color. We'll leave the technical feasibility to the architects. We're dreamers, and this is what I dreamed this building to be like. Ah, my collar broke. Oh well. And it looks great. I'm okay with adding a little bit over here because I kind of want this area and this area and this area to be lighted up like these, but it's okay if the rest of them don't have that bright gold color, because that's what I want to be highlighted with the sun ray, so to speak. This building is looking pretty good. I want to go back and add a little bit more of the darker browns. So I have this color, it's called sepia, kind of like the filter. I'm gonna go add a little bit more. And this area hadn't been defined. Go. And there we go. I'm okay with this area not having a ton of highlight. Okay, great. And now I feel like that's a good, like, sort of starting color for the base. I'm just gonna go and solidify everything with our highlight. Sort of blend it with the front colors that we just added. This is just kind of sort of gonna help build that whole golden, beautiful undertones. Look how good it blends. With a dark color, I'm just gonna go back, add more darkness here. And if I really want to make it dark, I just go back with a green, the same oxide of chrome, and I add it to the same brown. And it has more richness to me than me just adding black. Now, once I'm done with adding like all of the sort of windows and such, I will go and add more greenery and foliage so that it looks like it's overgrown. Now let's work on the foreground where we have a lot of the buildings. I'm just gonna go over and give the buildings a wash of the very light colors that we have. I had another one over here, but I covered it with the background color. I'm just gonna erase wherever that makes sense and just add. So they're gonna be in the same gold texture color as the same building that we have here. And so we're gonna work more with the yellows. Kind of like if you went to like Morocco or something, everything is like, all of the buildings are very golden, very desert looking. That's the color palette for these buildings. Honestly, I'm kind of chuffed with that because me personally, I don't like plain white buildings. It's boring to me. And unfortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of them because cities do look kind of boring and white. I want at least like a place where elves would live to look a little bit more better, I suppose. Okay. And now I'm gonna go with more of the darker green colors that we had. So this green is the green light, which is ironic because green light is the dark color in this scenario. Kind of reinforce the green bottom, the base of the buildings. Okay, and now go back to the same treatment of the ochre yellow. And I want to polish both of these, so the terracotta light and the yellow ochre light. These are the two that we want for the tiny buildings. See how beautifully that shows up without doing much. And you can really just plain color. And now since the light is coming in through here, we want this area to be lighter for the buildings and the bottom to be dark. It's always good to define your light source because it really shapes the way that your painting is gonna turn out. So if you don't have a light source, you don't really know what you're gonna see in front of you versus what you're not gonna see in front of you. So these three are actually covered by the big building. So if the light is coming through here, then we can assume that this is a shaded area. So I did like a small like outline, and we can go in, and this will be our lightest color for the darker area. You can just go in and add in the lightest color, the darkest area, because it's gonna be way darker. They did need a little bit of the yellow just to shine the gold through. But this is gonna be our darkest area. So this is the colorful. And then we go ahead and we reinforce the darkness. And in this case, the yellow ochre, sorry, the terracotta light is our lightest yellow that we really do need to worry about. You always want to work dark to light. As you can see, I'm going left to right. Because there can be indirect light coming in from the back. So the front will be a bit darker, the back might be a bit lit up. And this is the wall. Made a tiny wall, the dark area. And once we're in the darker area, we want this to be the highlight yellow instead of this very light one. And voila. That's the one that's gonna peek out from the bottom. Okay, and now I'm gonna go back with the terracotta light again and add darker details to this area. I feel like I'm sitting in a monastery with this very music. It's called the Gregorian Chant by Kevin MacLeod. It really gives like a whole ambience to the whoa, it's a lost city. It's a ruins. And also this is a kind of like a road or something. So I kind of want to get that definition a little bit. Okay, now these will also have their own shadows, so we want to add those too. These are the shadows of the buildings itself. So wherever we're in the light area, I'm adding shadows with a darker color here, and these guys will get their own shadows that are like super dark. Now we're gonna go back to the whole area and just kind of cover it with the Naples yellow here. Because this is where the light is coming from. Well, it really deserves a very, you know, like it's an area full of light kind of a treatment. Need to sharpen that pencil. Oh my god, come back. My pencil almost rolled off. Okay, awesome. So anytime I want to cover an area with a lot of light-handed but higher coverage, I kind of want to hold the pencil like this. Just go over it many times just to shade in all of those lovely highlights that we're gonna pick up later. Same for this area that's gonna get hit by the sun, and this area that is getting hit by the sun as we speak. Okay, awesome. Now I'm gonna start defining this whole area. And by defining, I mean adding like gradations like this. So we're gonna go and we're gonna work light to dark. So our lightest buildings to our darkest buildings, because the light buildings will let us know how dark our dark buildings really need to be. So I'm gonna work with more of the terracotta light and the yellow ochre and the sort of olive colors that we have, so the cad green and oxide of chrome. For the ground, I'm gonna work with a lot of the leaf green lights, the Naples yellow, and the, ironically, workers green. I don't know why it's called that, but it's called that. Can't help you. Okay, now let's really start defining these buildings. They're sort of like dome shaped. They might have their own entrance. Look how tiny their entrance is compared to the big one. I'm just gonna add wherever there's cracks. Because there really should be like cracked things, you know. I'm gonna go over this area with our lovely yellow ochre. Just sort of feel what you're doing. Just take a feel of whatever you're doing and just work along with it. Fine. It's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just draw whatever you feel like. I'm gonna put the book light over here so that you guys can see this a lot better. I wonder if that's visible now. Still a little blurry. I don't know why. I don't think that that's blurry on my actual, like, laptop. Okay. Great. Let's continue working on that. I'll fix that in the next frame, maybe. Gonna add in more of the green pockets wherever that makes sense. Now I'm going a bit rough-handed so that we get a lot of the details. Okay. And now just gonna add a little bit more detail over here. I realize I'm working with quite light colors, but they're gonna go dark very, very quick. The light color work lasts really long before you get to the dark colors, and then whoop, they're all gone most of the time. And now I need the browns that we were working with earlier. Sort of to divide buildings. And the shadows. Oh god, that one keeps coming out. I'm gonna want to fade the shadows out, really. And make sure that the ground in front of the building that we have is dark. Look at that. We have some defined buildings. And now we're gonna define all the broken ones. And the big crack from the canyon. And add more definition to the canyon. You always want to make sure that the shadow color is the actual ground color of whatever you're painting, along with the, you know, details that you want to add. So, like, I know shadows are black, but is your ground black? Ground is green. So your shadows can be green and brown at the same time. Sometimes the foreground also meshes with the shadows, so your building can literally merge with the shadow if it's dark. But we'll make them dark soon. This is like kind of a wall. We're gonna define the wall here. And now I'm gonna go with my lightest yellow to define wherever the ground is the lightest, which me thinks is around here. Another light yellow. It really get in there. And don't be afraid to stretch out the shadows really fine. It gives depth to the ground that the buildings are standing on. And it really creates like wonderful contrast ratios. So the cool thing about this place in the whole world building lore is that this is the birthplace of everything that has existed in this world. It's going to be one of the, you know, places of origin of where the heroes will come to find certain things. I'm not gonna spoil a lot of the world. I'm still in the process of building it. And this is my first time ever building towards something this big, but it's an exciting journey. It feels very personal, very new. I've never taken on a project this big, and it really is like, if I have a terrible history of dropping a lot of things. But if I manage to see it through, it will be one of my, you know, pride and joy projects, so to speak. Okay. Now the buildings have some definition. We're gonna go with the cad greens and the chrome. And really add in those edges. And the shadows. Oh, look at that. It's a broken building right there. Whatever that is, that was broken. And this dome thing. Broken. You really want to work your shadows as much as you want. Me personally, I can literally spend hours painting or drawing the same thing. Can keep adding detail, adding more and more detail. So this is the cad green. It's not the darkest green that I have, but it's working to be one of the darker ones. Also, don't be afraid to put green in the canyon area, even though we know it's going to be mostly brown. But the canyon area can also have like nice shades of green. You can really bring out the shadows when you're working on sort of any shapes. Also, once you set up buildings, there are shadows that are deflected by a couple buildings, so it doesn't really mean that this building is in front of this one. Can be that they're both in the same axis of the light. So any buildings that are affected by shadows, they should be kind of placed concurrently. So the light, since it's coming from here, these two are unaffected, but this one probably isn't. So is this one. So we're gonna make that darker. You can really stretch out the shadows to where it makes sense. And these are some walls, so their shadows can also be stretched out. And on the inner side as well. So now that we know what the lighter shade of buildings looks like, you see how dark these are? And this is the shaded area. Now that we worked on the lighter buildings, we know what the darker buildings are gonna look like. They're gonna look much darker than these. So once we start working that in, we need to make sure that the ground is also equally dark and laden. That's a broken building right there. This one has like a entrance over here. One has an entrance over here. It's broken. Add in more detail. It probably has a window or something. These ones have windows. You can really add all sorts of tiny details to your drawing. I should really stop doing this because it really, you know, smudges color. Should have learned that during charcoal when I used to do charcoal. But even then I used to be like, oh, you shouldn't do that. If you have like a brush or something, you should probably use the brush. But yeah. Okay, so now we had that imaginary line kind of going through here like this, covering this building, this building, this building, this building, and this building. So our darkest shade of green would be the oxide of chrome. We really want to get the cad green working as our base. And then we can work towards oxide of chrome. You can really build towards any sort of you want in that area. And make sure that the darkest of your shadows here will be the lightest of your shadows in this area. This covered by the taller, much bigger building. Not this building though, because it's kind of out of the line as well. So it will get like half of the treatment. Once I have the cad green down, you really want to pull those shadows really bright. And this is our wall. So the wall can just be one big thing of shadow. In our last building. Okay, awesome. Now this is our darkest area. And we really want to make that the darkest area. So I'm gonna go back with my darkest green color, which is the highlight for this area. So the castle green light is gonna be a highlight color in this area. See how, notice how light this area is? This is gonna be the exact opposite of this area. You really want to work in the highlight color. So once you start playing with the naturally dark ones. And then you have a range of contrasts of why this area is darker than the other. Okay, and now we want to go in with our really, really dark colors. So the hooker's green. I don't know why it's called hooker's green, but you know, I guess Castle wanted to name it that. See how dark that is? That is gonna be one of our shadow colors for this area. This wall is completely obstructed and in the dark. Fine if it's like very dark. I'm gonna add some characteristics to the wall here that it really looks like broken down and ridgy. It's like small pieces here and there. And now we want to work with our darker buildings, really pull those shadows here. I'm gonna pull the shadow from the larger building as well. Like a very soft stroke motion, and you really want to add the rays of darkness, as you can see here. Okay. So I'm gonna work that here as well. And really pull the shadows. Really pull shadows. And obviously the shadows are not going to be organically in the same like one direction. You can wiggle wobble them as they go through. That looks really cool. You gotta make sure that it's pulling from the same source of light. And when you're working with it, you need to make sure that the same amount of shadows is being applied from the source as well. I kind of want to like to blend as I go. So with the actual building. See how much depth that adds? You kind of want to go in and add as much depth as you can. And now we go in with our darkest color, which is oxide of chrome, and add definition to our darkest buildings. And our darkest shadows. See how dark they are compared to these ones? Look at that. That looks so nice and contrasty compared to like the lighter area that we have here. And now we're just gonna marry the light area and the dark area. So we're just gonna pull some cad green into the light area and just kind of blend. It is a flat, like a flat land sort of a situation. So it should make sense. As you get closer, the colors get more and more vibrant. You just want to take our blending color, which is the cad green, blend out the main areas. Wherever you want more definition in from a dark color, fine too. This music is making me feel like I'm in danger. I'm gonna change it. That's beautiful. Then take the curve green and add very light, like instances of very dark shadow near the building bases. Does that make sense? You know? And now we're gonna take a burnt umber and we're gonna go over the dark area, because these buildings are actually gold, not green. So the reminiscent of gold should be present. Wherever there's like less grass, adding brown shadows is completely fine. Okay, and now I really want the ochre yellow color to sort of pull dark buildings together. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Really get in there and add as much vibrancy as you want to your painting. And that is what is really beautiful about painting, isn't it? Take the same burnt umber color and make sure there are remnants of that in the main building as well. Amazing. And now we want to take the ochre yellow and really go over that central area. Oh, sorry, it's terracotta light. Where we're marrying the color, the light to the dark. And now you blend with a lighter yellow, which is the cad yellow. And now you really have an illusion of light to dark. And whenever you need, you can go back with your lightest green, which is leaf green. You can add in more and more definition. I think I need to sharpen these two colors. And now we're gonna go in sort of the flat blending mode. Kind of blend it all together. And it really, really makes a really beautiful painting. Wherever you need that variation of the dark, the light. Now I need the brown color, which is our latest brown, the cinnamon color. Go over the wall. Dear God. Go over the ground. Add those lovely like shades brown here and there, because it's like really, really far away. You really want to give it that depth of, you know, color here and there. Also, fun, you can take your darkest color, add in some trees at the end there. You can add in as many trees as you want and really fill out the space. So wherever there's a light, you add the light trees. I think I need a lighter green color. It's brighter, but not as dark as the ones that I'm working with. You can add as many trees as you want. Really fill out that landscape. Really make it look like it's been overgrown by nature. And in the dark areas, you kind of want to use your dark green colors like Octet Chrome to add trees. In the lighter areas, we take the lighter greens and add trees. You can add as many trees as you want. This is my world. I want it completely overgrown by trees. Hell, even a tree growing out of this house. Why not? Even this though. And since they're really, really far away, you don't need to worry about a lot. And just add in basic shapes. Like triangles, you know. It's cute. Look how that looks. That looks kind of great. Now I'll continue adding trees in the front here. Because I really want the, you know, overgrown nature sort of look. And also, make sure to pull from the trees, the shadows. It really gives your nature and your landscape that much depth if you do. Look at that. We have a great, beautiful landscape in the middle. You can be really proud of that. Okay. Now, I kind of want to stop here because my fingers are starting to hurt. But thank you if you tuned in to watch me. And if you didn't, make sure you catch the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I think I've been streaming for about... Let me see, actually. Hour and a half. I think that's a good timestamp to stop. Oh, almost 2 hours actually. Well, let's pull it to the full 2 hours. Let's do this sort of like a ridge in the canyon over here. So now in the darkest area, I'm gonna go with like this and really just kind of create fake ridges. And we're gonna paint with the light. So wherever you feel like there should be like a canyon covering the area, we go and we add shadows. Call this painting with light because you put shadows first. Wherever the shadows make sense, you put down. And you just let that do the work, so to speak. And I want to add a little bit of the green here as well, just to add more interest and, you know, more depth of color. Really bring out that aesthetic of overgrown by green. Yeah, I think that's enough. And then we just go over with our ochre yellow to really blend that in. now we go with our darkest brown. I think Van Dyke brown. And we really add in the darkest parts of our shadow. If that makes sense. It's gonna have a crack there. Why not? It really creates the illusion of a very great canyon. I know it went very heavy-handed here, but it really is kind of like a cliff. So you want to give that impression of a very enormous cliff. And just to add more detail of where we're viewing this from, this is kind of like a tree where we're standing above from like this valley area. And this is like the valley area where we're viewing it from. So it's really like the highlight color for this tree trunk. We're not gonna have a lot of it in the view because it's kind of out of the frame, but fine. Just to kind of pull the frame in a little bit of perspective. There we have it. We want to really add more character. I am going back and adding a little more blue in the forefront where I feel like there should be more detail and really tying them in together. And I think that just about concludes my stream for today. I'm gonna continue this in a part 2 in the next stream, but thank you so much for watching this one. And it's been super fun drawing and just chilling, relaxing. Happy Monday. It's not Monday today, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Look at that. Happy Monday. Have a fun week. Thank you.